Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the SMALLRT X1. This is one of the least expensive Android TV boxes you can currently find on Amazon, retailing for under 35 bucks. It's also extremely portable and small. The X1 itself has fairly low-end specifications, but it's more than sufficient for streaming media content from YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and the like, and it runs on a full version of Android, connecting to a monitor or projector or television using HDMI, and comes with a pretty decent remote as well. So for 35 bucks, again, it's a great value for an entry-level device. And specifications include a quad-core processor, it's a MediaTek chipset, you have 1 GB of RAM on board, 8 gigs of built-in storage, although part of that is occupied by the operating system, and you have Wi-Fi built on in, but no Bluetooth. So very bare bones build, but again, fairly impressive for the price. The packaging here is actually pretty decent. This is the TV box itself, which you can see is absolutely tiny. And here it is next to something like a standard mouse, so you get an idea of how small this thing is. A regular Android TV box is much larger, even though that is already considered portable. Underneath here, we have access to the aforementioned mouse, which actually looks fancier than many of those more expensive aforementioned TV boxes we've checked out in the past. There is a proprietary charger, and we also have a bundled HDMI cable as an added bonus. A pretty nice gift, considering, again, the low cost of the unit. Finally, there is a user guide that's documented in black and white that tells you how to navigate the user interface, which has been pretty heavily customized to run on a version of Android 6.0. So let's take a closer look at the design of the X1 first. The entire unit is constructed out of plastic, and you can see that impressively there are actually 2 full-size USB 2.0 ports despite the very small size. The unit again is quite lightweight, which makes it easy to take with you if you are going on vacation and you want to use it as a presentation tool. There's also a micro SD card slot to expand on the built-in memory. The front here also features the IR blaster sensor and where the Wi-Fi antenna is located. On the back there's access to an Ethernet port if you want to use wired internet. There is the charging port, full-size HDMI port, AV input if you don't want to use HDMI, and there's also a 3.5mm headphone jack if you want to link it up to better speakers. On the back, some basic information. It's using the Rockchip 3229, so that is the processor built on in, and there's rubber feet to prevent the unit from sliding around on a surface or a desk. So overall, again, construction seems decent for something that's so low cost. I would say other competitors to this would be something like the I don't know, Chromecast, or maybe another low-cost plug-and-play Android TV stick, as opposed to a TV box, since this thing really is so tiny. One of the smallest I've seen, and again, the cheapest I've seen too. Let's take a closer look at the UI and performance next. We have a quick diagram of what the corresponding kind of tiles and apps are like, and then we're done. So now we are in the main user interface. You can see here it's pretty typical for an Android TV box. We have these grids that we can use for easier navigation with the bundled remote, because again, it doesn't support gestures or motions like an actual mouse. But overall, you can navigate through things like help for tutorials. You can access the full Android Play Store to download more games and media content, although I would be a little cautious because of the relatively limited amount of memory that's built in, so make sure you don't download too many titles. You have access to the basic WebKit-based browser that's built into Android. I can erase the memory, go into System Settings, File Explorer to look at content on an SD card or thumb drive, and then look at more apps, or a full list of apps here. So from here I have basic utilities that are preloaded, including calendar, calculator, Gmail support, and there's even some built-in extra apps for setting up controllers if you want to, again, use it for very light gaming or to use your own controller for navigation. And here we have a eMedia Center menu, which is kind of their version of something like Kodi. It's not nearly as advanced, but it does give you the ability to look at content stored locally on the device as well as on an SD card and then play it back. So for instance, Media Player, if I tap on that, it's also going to search the device for any content. Here we can see that there is moments of sluggishness here, as opposed to a fast octa-core or lightning fast top of the line Android TV box that may have 3 or 4 gigs of RAM compared to only 1 gig. So moments of sluggishness here and there, but once everything is loaded, it remains actually quite swift and responsive. So we're going to cancel out of this, go back, and media server is pretty similar. Here I can also use this interface to navigate through content. So this is more of an kind of simplified interface for loading up content if you just want to use it for basic media tasks. So let's go back home, and you can see that I can also look at the settings for a second and confirm that we are indeed running on Android 6.0. So going up, about, and Android version, so indeed we're running on 6.0.1. So actually a surprisingly up-to-date version of Android Marshmallow is on here, despite the fact that, again, we don't have top-of-the-line specifications. You can see there's definitely some slowdown and sluggishness. It seems like frame rates have been reduced just to make things run smoothly, but all in all, general navigation is actually pretty speedy and responsive. Just be sure to kind of clean the memory and free the RAM every once in a while. If you have too many things loaded in the background, it might get a bit more sluggish. So on the top of the device, what's interesting is you have a status bar as a widget that shows your location based on Wi-Fi, also the temperature and time and date. So this is updated automatically through Wi-Fi. At the very bottom, you see an arrow on the left-hand side, and if you click on that, it's going to bring up the traditional Android buttons for going home, back, and screenshot, in addition to perform actions like cleaning or closing down programs. So let's take a quick look at the browser as an example. And from here, we can load up something like maybe mobile YouTube. Pretty standard as far as setup, slight modifications to make it look better on a larger display, but we have access to trending. We can also slide through multiple categories, and let's try playing back a video. So this is what the on-screen keyboard looks like. You can see that it's a little bit tedious to navigate through longer words, but it works. And let's tap on one of our videos, and you can see that the interface is very clean. And overall, it's simple to navigate and to use. The output resolution by default is at 1080p, but I can also play back 4K content without any issues. Same thing goes with 3D stereographic videos, both on YouTube and on the memory itself that you may want to load up. So you can see the interface here, very clean, oversized keys for changing the volume and skipping or scrubbing, which is better than other TV boxes I've seen in the past where the interface was a bit more clunky. The remote control takes two AAA batteries, which are not included, and uses a simple IR sensor. Again, it's actually a bit more well constructed than a standard TV box remote that we've seen recently, which is, again, surprising for the price. There's access to a 5-way navigation toggle, which brings up a virtual cursor that you can move around on screen, or you can just use it to select up, down, left, and right using that grid-like layout. Overall, it's pretty intuitive and easy to use, despite the fact it's not an air remote with gesture support. Furthermore, for text entry, it's a little bit tedious to peck out letters one at a time through a virtual keyboard, which is why we still recommend plugging in your own keyboard and mouse for quicker text entry. There is, however, access to a traditional numeric pad on the bottom. You can go back home, you can go into the menu system and navigate around. Also, you can change the volume in addition to skip tracks and turn the unit on and off without any issues, as long as you're pointing it directly at the X1. So that's been our video review of the SMALLRT X1. Overall, for such a low-cost device, it's surprisingly capable. Although, of course, if you plan on using it for gaming and downloading a ton of apps, or for doing very intensive web browsing, it's not going to work quite as well just because of the limited RAM and the slower processor. This thing really is good enough to stream up to 4K media content from YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and it really gets the essentials right. So if you have a standard television or projector and you want to add some smart functionalities to it for entertainment, for media, this could be really a nice buy, especially in this holiday season at such a low price point. A great entry-level Android TV box overall. You can check out more details in our official written review, but for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.